Hello friends, how are you? How are you getting on? My name's Colin Doolan and this is the Sober Mess podcast, and I'm absolutely chuffed and over the moon to have a man from Roscommon, County Boyle, the second most famous man from County Boyle, Chris O'Dowd, and the Paris Priest, sorry, the third most famous.
Yeah, Paris Priest after me.
He's an MMA fighter, a video blogger. He's an entrepreneur. He's famously known as the Craic Master on YouTube because of the banter, not because he sells
Crack.
crack. In America, not the American crack, the Irish crack. And he's an overall great dude. So, Mr. Dan Ewing,
What's the crack?
what's the crack, man?
You alright?
How are you?
Good. Take two, huh?
Take two. Take two. We recorded a powerful podcast the other day and there was no sound on it. But look, it wouldn't be tech issues. It was meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be, and yeah.
Part of the journey.
Part of the journey. So, because you're a really good mate and I have a lot of respect for you and I want this to be as easy as possible, I'm going to ask you a really simple question to start us off.
Like the last time we recorded it, is it?
Yeah, just like the last one. So my simple question for you today is, how do you define happiness?
How do I define happiness? Yeah.
And this is like this is your second take now. So
I know,
this is like
yeah.
cheating.
It's a bit of a cheat now. Although
It's
at
like
the same
he
time,
has the answers written down in his hand.
happiness is being happy. There you go. But on a serious note, like I don't think happiness. One thing, define happiness. Happiness is something that comes from within, right? And I don't think you can. For me, I always searched constantly for happiness on the outside. Like I sought things on the outside and thought that they would give me the happiness that I sought, to fix whatever was going on inside me. And I think that happiness truly comes from being okay with yourself, and it comes from two things for me that are really important. I think that are keys to happiness: acceptance and gratitude. And accepting yourself, accepting who you are, the way you look, what's going on for you, your situation, where you live, be it wherever it is. And accepting that is the first part, and saying, this is who I am, this is what cards I have in my life, and then being grateful to have them. That gives you a bit of happiness, because you know what, I am where I am, and I'm blessed to have what I have.
I love that.
And that would be for me the key to happiness: wanting what you already have.
Yeah, but like appreciating what you already have.
Yeah.
Because I found what it was a massive game changer for me was I changed one word in my life. I changed the word want to have. I used to go to bed at night saying, I want this, I want that, I haven't got this. But then when I changed the word to have, I have. And just being able to accept the things around us that we have and be able to appreciate them. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, we don't appreciate a lot of stuff till it's gone. You know what I mean? But being able to treasure the things that we have now, like the simple things, like, you know what I mean? To be like, even like, even like the likes of nature, trees and flowers. Like flowers serve no purpose to like mankind. Like you can't eat them, you can't do anything with them, but they look amazing. Imagine how crappy life will be without them, like, you know.
Well, imagine in the sense that, imagine how crappy it would be without them, but also think of the beauty of nature. If you look at a flower and you see a bee flying into that flower, you're getting pollen, and that pollen helps fertilize more flowers. They use that to create honey, which we might eat. You know what I mean? That, like, you become more aware of the beauty of nature and how it all works together, and really appreciating things. And I remember that, when I started kind of coming out of my head and the madness in my head after I gave up drinking drugs and started becoming more in the present and noticing those things, and just being, we talked about, I was talking to you about a fact about here in Tenerife, because obviously we're here in Tenerife, and we're talking about
the Irish weather.
Yeah.
No, so.
The lads brought the weather. Unfortunately, I'm very disappointed.
But the Sober Mess international headquarters in Tenerife, County Spain.
There you go. And the thing, like, for example, here you've got the Sahara, sand being blown away from the Sahara, from Africa, covering the islands, and it makes its way to the Amazonian forest
That's mad.
and
All the way over
fertilizes
to
it.
Brazil, like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
and
Like
fertilizes it.
the
Like,
intelligence of nature is
yeah,
incredible. Like when you look at everything that's happening around, like everything is in like in the Taoism they believe the cycles of nature, and they believe that nature is perfectly look, if you look, you don't make your hair grow, you don't make your heart beat, you know, you don't make your nails grow. These are perfectly flows they meant as they meant to. And in Taoism, they believe if we can do that with our lives, that if we stop interfering with our lives and just let things flow as they're meant to, and as you said, acceptance, just accepting the situations about things. And look, I'm a big believer that our imagination is our creativity, and I think worry is a big waste of our imagination. Like, you know what I mean? To
big time.
worry about shit.
Swimming against the tide. Like, I often kind of associate that with, you know, when you're thinking about, for example, a lot of my pain in life comes from not accepting the things in my life and fighting against the flow of my life, the flow of nature, the flow of of what the spiritual purpose and the journey that I'm supposed to be on, fighting against that.
Yeah.
The way I always think of it is I like to scuba dive. So, you know,
I love that.
when you're in the ocean and you're scuba diving and you start swimming against the tide, you'll tire yourself out, you'll run out of air. But when you follow the direction of the tide and you go with what
Go
life,
with the flow.
your journey is more it's on a purpose, and and it flows in a natural way. And when I tap into that way in my life, it basically gives me that journey a lot easier, and it just feels like it's meant to be.
I love
I
that.
don't know if you experience that when you're traveling through your life now, where you go, well, that's not just a coincidence. That person has stepped into my life, or that thing has gone on in my life because I'm on the journey. And you
Yeah.
think, oh, that's a coincidence. It's not actually a coincidence. You're riding the tide. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
no,
You're riding the
it's
tide.
mad how there's so many analogies that you can connect with
Yeah.
nature, like, you know what I mean, with waves, and like it's not learning to dodge the waves, it's learning how to surf. And with tides, you know, like with time, you know, tide comes in, tide goes out, you know, that life and that's just life, that everything happens in moments, everything is temporary. Like you think you're getting highs, you're getting lows, there's a winter, there's a summer, and that's what I love about nature, that you can relate so much to it, like, and you're like, and you're talking about fear there, and the gas thing is how many things do we worry about, like endlessly staying up all night rattling with fear, only for the outcome to be the outcome regardless of how much you worried about. I remember a few years ago worrying about a job, that, oh, I'm not going to get this job, blah blah blah, and I end up getting the job, or worrying about going to like a first day of the job or first day of college, riddled with fear and anxiety, or they won't like me, they'll reject me, they won't accept me. And then you go and you're grand, and it's always the stuff that we worry about the most that's perfectly grand. Like 90% of the things that we worry about, 99% of the things we worry about never happen.
Yeah.
And it's, that's what I'm saying, it's such a waste of our imagination. Like, it's
And even
mad.
if they do happen, they were meant to happen, and they were meant to teach us something. We
Yeah,
learned
exactly.
something from it, and that's like, for me, when you talk about nature, we are nature. And one of the things that, when I feel the way I feel more connected in my life is normally when I go to nature. My spiritual connection in life is when I go to nature, when I go to the ocean, when I go to the mountains, when I connect with nature. I feel, like, now I feel a spiritual sense of why I'm here. Now I feel connected to the earth. Now I feel connected to my journey. And it's when I'm, up in my head, or, the hamster wheel scenario, where when I'm consumed by what society is telling me to do, or it wants me to do. It's like, you need to do this in life, you need to do that in life. When the reality is, it's just something that's been sold in my head. And when I just focus on, okay, I can move, I can breathe, I feel the air, I feel the ocean, I'm okay. Mentally I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be all right in the end, whether or not you talked about the job, or whether or not it's a speech I have to do the next morning, or I have to do, a YouTube video, or I have to do something at work, or I have an important decision in my life. That when I have that, normally when I go and connect with nature, it feels like it's really insignificant when you look at it in the grand scheme of
I
life.
love that,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It
And
doesn't matter.
I remember my dad saying that to me once. I was asking my dad about something, I was worried about it. And he said, ask yourself one thing about this. Is it that important? And I'm like, no. And it's mad that we make stuff in our lives so important that they're keeping us away at night, that they're making us anxious, that they're giving us heart palpitations, that, oh my God, what's going to happen? And it's like, is it that important? Like, why am I making this so significant? Like, you know what I mean? And as you said, when you go out and look at how big the sea is, or look up at the cosmos, up at the stars, and how big and vast the universe is, you realise my shitty problems aren't that important. Like, and I know before I know it, I'll be 85 and looking back at me life going, I wish I worried less and was more in the moment and appreciate the simple things. Like, you
And when
know?
you look back, like for me, when I look back at stuff that sort of worried me, like I remember in the early days of my journey in recovery and working in architecture, and I'd be having, you know, to be a design issue, or I'd have to meet the client the next day and I'd have made a mistake, or I can't fit a certain part of their wants in the, and I used to be worried at night thinking about it, like how are they going to react, how's it going to be tomorrow. And really, when I look back from now, you're talking maybe 10 years ago, and I look back and go, does it have any great bearings on my life right now?
I love
No, it
that,
doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't have any great bearings on my life. It won't, you know, greatly affect my life. You know, it's you know, I can't remember who told me this, but it says, will this decision or this certain thing have a huge bearing on your life in 10 years?
Like, yeah,
Is it that important?
like, will it matter, like, tomorrow? Will it matter
Yeah.
next week? Will it matter next month? Will it matter next year? And when you think about that, like, when you look at problems that way, it's like, no. You know, like, nearly half the stuff that we worry about, no, won't matter next week, won't matter next month. And, you know, and it's just like, no, why am I letting this thing take up free rent in my head? Like, this thing's in my head, and I'm like, why am I worrying all about this? So Dan, as well, you're over 20 years sober now.
Yeah.
Like, they say the first 20 years are the hardest. Is it?
I'm worried about the next 20.
What advice would you give to someone just starting off on their journey? Be it out there, it doesn't have to be maybe sobriety, but just anyone that's wanting to make a change in their lives. What advice would you give them?
I'd say, if I was to say anything, be gentle on yourself. You know, be gentle on yourself, and don't be so hard. Don't expect, when you look at someone that's further on in your journey, don't expect that to be the instant place you're going to now. Be gentle. It takes time. It's not, you know, if I look back at, you know, it took me a good few years to kind of find some sort of peace where the anxiety wasn't at the level of, you know, and put the work in, you know what I mean, as well. Obviously, don't be hard on yourself, say, oh, I'm not, you know, beating yourself up about it, but do put the work in. The work you put in will, you know, you'll get it back, like, you
Yeah,
know what I mean.
but that's it. It's like when we stop the drinking, that we're just left with the reasons why we drank. That's
Yeah,
why I drank, not because I loved the bubbles, you know what I mean, or the taste of alcohol. Because I drank because it was an escape. It was a distraction from the real problems, which was my emotions, my thinking, my anxiety, my fears, my inability to cope in society. And when I put drink on top of that, it melted all that stuff away. It made me confident. It made me not care what people thought about me, because I was extremely insecure, extreme low self-esteem. And I thought when I drank, I morphed into this character. But I became dependent on that mood change and that alteration that drink gave me, and I just couldn't take it or leave it. As soon as I took a drink, then I just couldn't. One was too many, and 1,000 wasn't enough. Like,
yeah, and I think that, I mean, 100%, and it's what we can, like, basically, if you're in the start of anything, it's very hard. You know, I can't, we can. You know what I mean? And it's very hard when you're in the start of a journey and you feel alone. For me, you know, I was actually, you know, sharing on a 12-step meeting today, and I was talking about that. It's like, it's at the start, it feels like you're faced with this Mount Everest, you know, that this is huge thing standing in front of you that you'll never be able to achieve. And like, when someone said to me, I'm gonna have to give up drinking drugs for the rest of my life, it was like, how am I ever gonna do that? You know, this is impossible. Like, and in the early days, when like, I white knuckled something, you know, just begging to get through the night, like when the obsession to drink or use was so strong, the obsession to act out was so strong, that, you know, I either rang someone, and if I couldn't ring someone, I'd say, right, I'm not going to do this for the next 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm not going to do this for the next 5 minutes. and that 5 minutes would grow into half an hour.
I love that.
That half an hour into an hour,
Yeah.
and the hour would go into 24 hours, and I'd put my head on the pillow, and I wake up the next morning, and I've not have acted out or drank or used. And sometimes it's just easier to break it down into the smaller parts, even if it's 30 seconds. Because, you know, in the early days of me starting that journey, the obsession to use drugs was so strong, that it consumed me. It was like, it was the only way I knew. It was like, and now I was changing, like, and change involves action as well, you know. So the old me would always use. So I needed to change. Like, the me that's sitting here now with you is nothing like the person that I was when I started this journey. I'm a completely different person. Even accent wise, you know. I had
You had a worse accent than the one
yeah.
now,
I had
Roscommon one. How are you getting that?
I don't even know what accent I have now because it's morphed so much. Like,
it's a bit Spanish, it's a bit Tenerifean, it's a bit Dublin. There's a bit of everything in there.
Yeah, and I have, like I say, mates, which is a real English thing.
You need to go to Dodgy Meeting or Dodgy Accent Anonymous. That's
it. 100%. But it was I had what is known in the West as a sham accent.
A sham.
Do you know what I mean? And I yeah, you know, all right, cham. Swear to God, cham. Do you know what I mean? I swear to God, like that's the way it was. And a different person, and I had to change. You know, I had to change in order to become a person on a spiritual path, and that involves working. For me, it involved working 12-step program. It also involved getting outside help. You know, I did counselling, I did cognitive behavioural therapy, I did not so long ago I did EDMR. I've done many different things.
EDMR, that's like for PTSD, isn't it? Where you look at and you're going back. Yeah, I heard great things about that. And I love how you broke that down. That's not looking at the overall task. It's breaking it down to the little victories. You know what I mean? The little baby. Like, you wouldn't say, "Oh, geez, I have to run a marathon, or I have to build a whole house, and I have to climb the whole Mount Everest." Everything starts with a tiny little step.
Yeah,
and that's how you move mountains, by one little rock at a time. And it's the same with our endeavours to change, or be it with sobriety, or just any new behaviour, or any habit you want to incorporate into your life. Is that just them baby steps? Like, just that moment at a time. If I can get through just this next minute, just this next hour, just this next day. Look at the little tiny. Like, people say, "I want to lose 5 stone." How about we just drink a glass of water? You know what I mean? Take little tiny. I want to do a marathon. How about just go for a walk today, and then morph it up to a run? That we make things more attainable. You know what I mean? And more enjoyable as well. Because when we're like, "Oh, I have to do this because you know I'm not a good person,"
beating yourself with a stick because when you haven't done it, like.
Yeah, that's on early days. I remember in my own sobriety, they used to say to me, "If you're gonna beat yourself up with a feather. You know, put down the stick and pick up the feather." And that's what it is. If we make these little attainable goals, you know, it makes things so much easier, and so much. It makes life a lot easier as well. Like, you know.
Big time. And you're obviously training for Ironman at the moment, and like, I doubt you started, like, when I started running first, and I did you've done a marathon, have you?
Yeah, done a marathon,
And I did a marathon as well in
2016.
2016, yeah. So for me, that was a huge goal for me to do. But I remember the first time I tried to do a run, you know, a 5K run, and I said to myself, what I'm gonna do. Same principle. I said, I'm gonna walk and run 5K. I'm gonna run, and I ran small parts of it, literally like sucking in air, dying, like, and eventually all of a sudden I could run 5K, because every time I went, I said, I'm gonna complete the 5K, whether it's run, walk, whatever it is. If it's crawl, it's crawl, and every time I got more of the 5K in running. In the end, I finished and I could run a 5K, and then I increased it bit by bit, and then all of a sudden I was like, right, I'm gonna do a marathon. Did a half marathon, then creeped up, and eventually did a marathon. And it's like that.
Wow, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's not an instant
But it's
thing.
like something that when you first start, it's unattainable. I'd never make it to that mountaintop. I'd never make it to the top of Everest. But before you know it, you're there, you know, and you're doing these little attainable, going for your first 5K. And I found it's harder to go from the couch the 5k than it is the 5k to a marathon, because the couch of 5k is the hardest part of the journey, because you're developing that new mindset, that new sense of confidence and self-worth, and you're not training because you're fat, you're ugly, you're training to celebrate what you're capable of doing. You know what I mean? And it's not about the physical, it's the mental stuff. It's developing a mindset that says, yes, I can. That says, yes, I can do this.
Yeah.
And to stop looking at people that do stuff like this, go, wow, he must be superhuman. He's doing great things. I wish I could do this. Stop wishing and start doing. You're capable of doing that same stuff. And it's just that, the excuses that we make in our heads, that's selling ourselves short, that we're capable of incredible things, and even if we don't succeed, at least we failed daring greatly. At least we said, look, I tried, I was willing, I took the effort, I leaned into something that was frightening me, that made me feel uncomfortable, that made me go against my whole comfort zone, and I done it, and I'm proud of myself for making the effort to say, yes, I can.
Big time, and it's funny you say that. And what step kind of stood out for me when you talk about is like, one of the things that stops a lot of people, including myself, from doing things is, you know, and I remember a fella saying to me, he says, here, if you had a friend that speaks to you the way you speak to yourself sometimes, would you hang out with them? You know, and so, you know, my self-talk was brutal for so long, and to change that and say, hold on here, what are you saying to me?
If you spoke to your friends the way you spoke to yourself, you wouldn't have any friends. And it's that inner critic, like, and being able to not
Exactly that.
don't give them the mic, you know, and everyone has it. And before I used to listen to him when he talked gospel, he talked true, and all the nasty things. But now it's just in the background. I used to get days where I feel low and I started to listen to him, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, I am a piece of shit, I am not good enough, I am this. But then it's about catching yourself, say, hold on, I'm going to get out of this now. Now I'm going to get out of this shitty mindset that I'm in, and just realise that this is just a dialogue that I don't have to believe, that I don't have to say, oh yeah, you're right, yeah, I am this, I am that, you know, I'm back away from it, like, you know.
This is the dialogue that, you know, that drove me to drinking and drugging, you know, and that's the reality, and it's that change, it's that clearing away that bad talk inside yourself, and it's like that. It's a journey. It's not an instant thing, and so many of us kind of think to ourselves, well, you know, when I came in first, or anything I start, it's that instant gratification that's, you know, indoctrinated more and more into society now, since we got mobile phones, since we got instant, you know, we can get that instantly. So everything we, you know, in life we think we get instantly, but it takes time. It takes time to get to those places.
It's making a transition where I used to get my stimulation out of drinking drugs and just chaotic behaviours, and I made a transition now that I get that stimulation out of like exercise and meditation and good community, hanging out with good people like yourself, and you know, sunrises and swimming and sea dips and Wim Hof and breath work, you know, that I'm getting my stimulation out of less chaotic and destructive things. But as an addict, I'll always seek a buzz, but I'm getting it out of healthier behaviours and habits, and that is a gift for me, to be able to go from needing drinking drugs to feel satisfied, to be now being able to get it out with travelling, now being able to get it out hanging out with good people, now being able to get it out with exercising, eating healthy and sleeping right, and doing all these things that make me feel good. Whereas before I was in such a low place that I needed that quick gratification. I needed them drinking drugs, because drinking drugs saved my life at one time, because of that inner critic you were speaking about. That was the only friend I knew at one stage, you know what I mean? And then drinking drugs numbed my reality. It was like medication. It was like a medicinal effect that it was throwing a lick of paint over over my life. You know what I mean? Like this pink rosy paint. But then when I got sober, I was like, shit, I knew that about it. I done the count, the CBT, I done 12-step meetings, I done, you know, I done a lot of talk and stuff out. I had to change my core beliefs that I had about society and more about myself, the core beliefs that I had about myself. And I remember hearing someone say that the biggest prison that we're in is our core beliefs, that the penitentium that we're in is our core beliefs, and the ability to change them core beliefs is a game changer.
Massively, and you're not gonna, it's what you talked about there is all the things that you talked about that are giving you satisfaction or giving you a nice well-being. I don't believe that you would get that from those things if you hadn't have done the work on yourself, if you didn't find a place of peace where you can appreciate those things on the outside. Because for me anyways, when I was so wrapped up inside myself, so wrapped up in all the mess that was inside me, in my heart, my brain and my soul, and I hadn't worked on myself and I hadn't cleared away a lot of the wreckage, I couldn't see what was going on around me. I couldn't appreciate the stuff that's going on around me. And now the stuff that I enjoy in my life, it's not there to fill any void. It's not there to fix anything. It's there for me to experience. It's there for me to enjoy. It's there for me to be something I can be part of, as opposed to something that I'm grabbing onto, like a guy in the middle of the ocean looking for a life vest. You know what I mean? I'm going doing things because I want to enjoy it, not because I think it's gonna fix the way I feel inside. And the satisfaction from not doing those things, experiencing those things, it's just so different, because I don't need them, but I enjoy them. You know what I mean? I don't need things outside to fix myself anymore. You know what I
I
mean?
love that.
They're additions to my life that I want to add to my life. Or go and do something, hang out with you guys. We went up doing the zip wires, trying new things. I live here in Tenerife, doing scuba diving, going out on a boat trip, going seeing whales. These are all things that, I don't go, oh, I want to do that because it's going to make me feel better. I want to do it because I want to experience it. I want that memory. I want to see those things. It won't fix me, but it will add another beautiful part to this journey that I have. And I want more of it. You know what I mean? I
love
want
that.
more of it, on the sense that I don't need more of it. I want more of it. I want to see it. It's never going to fix me. It's just a beautiful part of life. And being able to experience that is, the first time I looked up at the sky, I spent so long looking down at my shoes, and so long paranoid, so
Yeah.
long wondering were the police after me, so long feeling just darkness in my life.
It's mad when you actually start to notice things.
Yeah.
And that's what I found when I got sober, was that I actually started to notice things around me. Before I tell you in Dunleary, I tell you every crack on the street, because every crack on the ground, because I had me head stuck to the ground, like, you know what I mean, just looking down in shame, how low I felt about myself. But then when I got sober, I started to notice trees, I started to notice nature, I started to notice the sea, I started to notice the birds flying over me, I started to notice the stars. I'm like, were them stars always there? They new. They must be new.
Someone planted
Who
them.
put them up there? And that was the madness, man. I've only started to noticing these things. And, I remember it described to me like this. Imagine we all have a bucket, and we can choose to fill that bucket with whatever we want. And we all have the capacity to be fulfilled. We all have the capacity to feel satisfied. We all have a capacity for meaning. And we can fill that bucket with like all the unhealthy behaviours that we can find in life, all the chaos, the drink, the drugs, the toxic relationships, the negative self-talk, or we can choose to fill that bucket with healthier communities, with healthier habits, with be it exercise or reading, or, getting involved in healthy activities, like, you know what I mean? But either way, we have a capacity that we need to fill a bucket with something. So my thing was, I want to start filling that bucket with stuff that's going to make me feel good, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and add to the stream of life,
And that's beautiful, man. You know what I mean? That's why I live here. It's why I moved here. Um, I just fell in love with this way of living, and I spent a lot of time in Ireland chasing outward things. I worked as a DJ for 10 years. I worked in architecture. I chased
Architecture, by
outward.
the way, if you want to know his work of art,
The Leaning Tower of
the Credit
Castlereagh.
Union in Ballyhonus and the Credit Union in Castlereagh. Paris has the Eiffel Tower. Italy has the Colosseum. New York has the Statue of Liberty, and Ireland has the Credit Union in Ballyhonus.
The Leaning Tower of Ballyhonus Credit
Get on
Union.
to TripAdvisor. The greatest thing to see in Ireland is the Credit Union building in Ballyhonus.
Forget
Thank
the
you,
Cliffs of Moher.
the artist we
No,
have
no
here.
problem at all. Yeah, but just like one of the things for me was like it was chasing that for a long time. I had a nice Jeep, I had a nice sports bike, I had a house, and chasing outward things. And a big change in my journey. These islands, the Canary Islands, are a massive part of my spiritual journey. Actually, I feel a bit emotional talking about it because it was such a powerful change in my life. From going from a guy that was obsessed with the trappings of outward stuff, you know, about 10 years off drinking drugs, and I I I lost my job in 2008. Things changed, and I decided I'd become a dive instructor. I went from zero to hero in a year, did all the training, and then went off to. And it was the start of this journey that ended me up here. I went off to Lanzarote and started working as a dive instructor. And from having this big mad Nissan Navara Jeep and you know all this sort of stuff, to had this Citroen Saxo. Yeah, it was an old Saxo, white yoke, and had the gear. The gear stick was, you know, hadn't got the knob on the gear stick. It was just a metal rod sticking out of it. It was you know, brutal yoke, you know, and flip flops and just earning the bare minimum, you know, to keep things going. And I was never so happy. You know, the change of my mentality from this guy that was working constantly, you know, always had a wallet full of 50s because working as DJ, always had money, and you know, and just, you know, constantly at it, like, you know what I mean, you know, finishing work on a Friday evening, heading straight, you know, getting home, having a quick dinner, heading out to the club, DJing, getting home around 3-4 in the morning, up the next day, then sorting all the stuff out for the DJs because that DJ's working for me, then off to the club again, and possibly working Sunday, and then back to work on Monday, and just constantly in this loop of, you know, chasing something like on a hamster wheel that I was never ever going to get to, never going to get to. It was
Yeah,
like, you
it's
know, and
mad. Yeah,
and then coming here to like where the pace of life and just going underwater and breathing and looking at the
it's
ocean, you know.
amazing. Just being present, and it's mad that we can do that. You know, always done that. Being a few years sober and finding other things to fill that void in
Mm.
me or to cater for that woundedness. You know, if it was like money or online shopping or overworking or overtraining or food or, you know, these things that were kind of that was stimulating me and taking the edge off things and using as a cope mechanism. And what would you like say is the difference now between depending and chasing on something to appreciating it? Like saying, be it the motorbike or be it the possessions or whatever it is, to go from becoming dependent on something and attached to it to being grateful for it and appreciating it.
Um, Depending on something is like, if you don't have it, you're gonna feel sad. You're gonna feel hard. You're gonna struggle
Yeah, so it's
without it.
altering your mood and your
Yeah.
sense of happiness and value and
If
worth.
it's
And
there or it's not there, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
So when it's there, you appreciate it. So for me, it's like, um, and you know, anything in my life, bar my recovery, you know, I don't depend on.
I love that.
It's there as a part of my life. So I'm willing to lose everything except for my recovery. I don't mind losing everything. You can take the watch off my arm. You can take my car. You can take everything you want from me. I don't mind. You know, honestly, it's all borrowed. It's all borrowed. This journey at the end of the day, when I'm getting cremated and my life's over, none of this stuff, the T-shirt on me, the stuff that we think we own, it's all borrowed. So if you take it from me today, if I become nothing in my bank account, if you take my apartment away, I know that with this journey of recovery and with spirituality, that everything will be all right
I
anyways.
love that,
You know what
man.
I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't depend on any of that. I don't depend on. Obviously, I need food, so I do need money to eat. But I do believe that once I'm on this journey and I am connected to a recovery journey, that I will never go without what's needed. You know, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
The rest is just,
Yeah.
you know, it's just glitter,
Yeah, but it's
and we
true. It's like
don't need glitter.
if one thing gives, like I find that if I get too dependent on one thing, if one thing gives me the happy, it can take away the happy. You
Big
know
time.
that I need to have my sources and resources in place. That if I become dependent on this one thing and it's taken away, that will result in my unhappiness and my loneliness. Just imagine there's a village and they have one well with water, and that's what they depend on for the water. If one day that well is dried up or they can't get access to it anymore, what are they gonna do? They're gonna be in trouble, you know. And that's what I had to way look at my life. That where am I getting my happiness from? And if this thing is taken away, why did I put so much dependence for my emotional dependency and self-worth into this thing. So it's like I need to find a river, I need to dig more wells in my life, I need to find more resources and sources for my own well-being, and being able to cope with my own resources, like, you know what I mean. And that's the thing, that anything that I attach to, I'd say, right, I cannot be happy because I've put a condition on my happiness. If I haven't got my black hat, or if I haven't got my watch, or if I haven't got all these Instagram followers, or if I haven't got this weight, or if I can't run this far, I'm not happy, I'm not good enough. And I had to change that whole core belief system and realise that happiness isn't an external thing, it's an internal thing. That you can have all these nice glittery things and still feel lonely, and still feel not good enough, and still feel not worthy. You know, I need to realise that happiness is an inside job, and learning to appreciate the guy there rather than trying to appreciate all the nice shiny things on the outside. And that for me was the biggest journey, was learning to like who I am, because I was the guy that was always available to hang around, because I hated spending time on my own. I couldn't spend time with Colin because I didn't like hanging out with Colin. I'd do anything to get away from me. I'd take anything to get away from me. It's only when I was sober long enough that I realised, hang on a minute, I'm actually a good guy. I like hanging around with me today. I like sitting down and reading a book or watching a bit of Netflix on my own, or whatever it is, but I like being in my own skin today, that I don't need to rip myself apart, that, oh, I'm not this or I'm not that, you know. And that's the thing, that we're all unique, and to be able to celebrate our uniqueness and realise that where everyone's different, you know what I mean. You wouldn't walk into a forest and start judging all these trees because they're different shapes and sizes. I know you do.
Yeah, all the
But
time, man.
but what I'm saying is that we need to start looking at ourselves, that compassion and understanding that we're all different, and we're all just doing our best, you know what I mean. And when we realise that and become our own cheerleader and our own validator, then we have an endless source of well from the
Yeah,
water, you know. That
and realizing the well's inside us. It's not
that's
on the
the
outside. You know
wellness
what
is
I
in
mean?
there, man.
Yeah.
That hard.
And you know, one of the things that always, you know, when you're talking, just one thing that stuck out for me, and I was thinking about my life and over the years, and what really stood out when talking about how I feel okay on the inside, you know. And the real sign for that for me, I can't pinpoint exactly when it started, was when I could sit in a room without anything. And I mean by anything, I mean without stimulus. So without the TV on, without music on, without anything on, and be okay with the sound of my own head,
Wow.
without outside sources, you know. Because for so long in my life, you know, when I gave up drinking drugs first, I had that experience of you know, having to have music on, having to have the TV on, having to have something that gave me some sort of stimulus outside of myself, that I, you know, when I started realizing that, you know, I'm actually okay in my own company, was when I'm actually really okay in my own company. Not I'm sitting on my own with TV on, not I'm sitting on my own with my music playing. I'm sitting on my own with nothing, no sound, nothing. Be it, you know, sitting out in nature, be it whatever it is, just sitting there with nothing but my own thoughts. And that for me, when I started being able to do that, I realized that there was a wellness, or the well was inside me, and it was becoming more and more present inside me because I could sit with that silence.
Man, that's
You know what I
beautiful.
mean?
I
So,
really,
and when I got to that, and I'm not saying that that's constant, that comes back and forth over the years. I've had times where, you know, it's not possible. Like I'm in, you know, searing pain through whatever it is in my life. But when I'm in that place, it's, you know, everything else on the outside is just stimulus. It's not a fix. You know, it's because I'm okay in the presence of myself. Like, you know.
that for me is one of the biggest gifts in my sobriety, was becoming best friends with me.
Yeah.
And I found that the most difficult thing, you know, was saying, and I heard someone say that in early sobriety, say, yeah, we are best friends with yourself. What are you talking about? You idiot, like, you know. And now I'm starting to understand what he meant, like, you
Yeah.
know, that you start to like bring yourself away, like even here, being here traveling, like, you know what I mean, and being able to do these type of things is great, like, you know what I mean, and not have that fear or that anxiety or that inner critic holding you back, and realizing the things that you're capable of and the life you can live when you start to believe in the stuff that you're and the potential that you can do. And the only thing holding us back is that inner critic and that, you know, irrational fears that we can listen to and say, oh, what if this happens? But what if that happens? Oh no, I can't do that. I'll get back in my comfortable little box and never take any risks. And I feel like I'm really grateful for my drinking story and my suffering, because that's what I use today to connect with people and use as a way of practicing my gratitude, to say, right, this was once me and this is me now. And when I compare myself to any man in this world, I compare myself to the man I was yesterday, or the man that I was when I first got sober, waking up and feeling so low myself and not wanting to get out of bed, or walking on the road and having panic attacks, and, you know, being so frightened and scared of nothing, but just had this default feeling of feeling not good enough and self-pity and with shame and just not feeling worthy to be a part of society. Whereas now it's the opposite. Whereas now I'm proud of the stuff we can do and the stuff that we're capable of doing, and just being able to do shit. And if it fails, it fails. At least we can say we done it, like, you know. And I'm grateful for that. And what are three things that you're grateful for?
What are three? One, my mental health. Um, Two, my recovery, you know, and three, the relationships I have in my life.
That's beautiful. Man.
And especially the one with myself, because the one with myself allows me to have the relationships I have with everyone else, allows me to connect with it. Because if I didn't have a good relationship with myself, the relationships on the outside would never work properly, because, you know, I couldn't connect properly with other people, like, because I wasn't able to, you know, connect. I can't connect properly with myself.
That's beautiful.
And it's not a constant. You know, in my opinion, I don't think these things are constant. I don't believe I'll ever have anything licked in life. You know what I mean? It'll never be like, I'll always be great with myself. I'll always, you know, this, for me, this journey is a constant. For me, I have to, you know, keep working on myself. You know, stuff comes up. That's the beauty of this journey. You talked about it there, where you, when you look back at where you come from, the stuff that you've been through, you know, you don't. You're looking back at it. I look back at it, and I'm glad I went through. You know, oh, we've got to go, man. They're after us.
This is live stream now to Crime Call. This, this is an
Garda.
interrogation.
I moved
He's admitting I'm taking down evidence. Yeah.
I moved to Tenerife for other reasons. Yeah, but it's like
It's a testimony.
Yeah, when you look back, when I look back at my life and I say to myself, right, do you know what it is? I'm glad I went through the stuff that I went through, and in and out of my recovery journey, because it's given me the growth that I have today. It's made me the person I am, and it's given me the ability to be grateful for many of the things I have in my life.
And also to connect with a like-minded community, because I feel that, like, I barely knew you like 2 weeks ago, and now, because of our backgrounds, that I feel like I've known you my whole life, you know what I mean? And to be able to have that connection, that we've walked a similar path, that we walked through a great lengths of suffering, but we also come from a great place of gratitude for the lives that we have because of recovery. And that's one thing that I'm really grateful for the community that I've met in recovery, of people that I can connect with and get me that, how are you? No, but how are you really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no shit talk with, oh, did you watch the match last night, or what do you think of fucking Love Island, like, you know what I mean? Where it's real conversation, it's raw, it's, yeah, I'm suffering today, yeah, I'm finding it really hard, yeah, this thing is really holding me back, like, and I don't know what to do. And someone that says, okay, yeah, I get that, I've been there, I understand, this too shall pass, you're going to be okay, you're safe. And I love that, man, that you can connect with people. And I wouldn't have that if it wasn't for my hardships and my war story and my struggles and the darkness that I've been in. And because of that, I've have an experience where I can strike a rapport and a connection, and I can resonate with people who've been through similar things, like, you know. And that's one of the superpowers of coming out of that darkness.
Big time. And I mean, the other thing is, we talk about in the 12th of a spiritual awakening. And I believe that my spirit needs to be shook deeply. And part of my shaking was my when I was out there in the dark place, that my body was being shook. It had to be shook to awake. My body's been shook many times throughout the journey over the last 20 years, where I've gone through dark places and my body needed that shake to move my spirit to the next level. And I believe that's part of my journey, is the shaking of the spirit. And when I see people on similar journeys to me, their spirits are awake. Their spirits are awake. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it. I see when people come in and start this journey and they change things in their lives, and all of a sudden their spirits start to wake. You see the light in their eyes, and it's like, and you can see it when you go to, say, the rooms, or not just the rooms, when people change something phenomenal in their life, or all of a sudden they become awake to life. Like that. Like I I would hate to be in a situation now where I'm just clocking in and clocking out of life. I'm just passing through life until the day I pop my
just
clogs.
existing, like,
Existing. And a lot of people go through, like, I like that in life, that they might not be alcoholics or addicts, they're just existing in life. I feel blessed that I went through a spiritual shock, a spiritual awakening, and a spiritual journey to where I am now, where I consider myself awake. I'm not fully awake, but I consider myself awake on many levels, to be able to really take in what this
Well,
life
it's not
has to
just like
offer.
robotic existence, like, we just can't caught in this repetition where you can get a sense of excitement, where you're not getting your stimulation. We talk about this, your stimulation out of just eating crap food or drinking and drugging, that you want to get your stimulation out of scuba diving or nature or travelling and getting them out of nicer things. And I love what you said there as well with spiritual awakening. And what I found that like, a poet said this, I think it was Charles Cooley, said that we're all cracked, but it's a good thing because it's the cracks that let the light in.
Yeah, I
You know
like
what I
that.
mean? And that's what it is when I suppose the hard times that I had, I was cracked, but that let the light in. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And also the other thing is that where you find the darkness, where you find the light is in the darkness. You don't find light in the light. You don't even notice the light in the light.
Yeah.
So when you're in the darkness and you see a shed of light, and you're like, yeah, I'll go towards it. And that's when we find the light, when we're in that darkness. And when people think the light, I'm not talking about, oh, God, or, oh, fucking born again stuff. I'm talking about just finding light in your life, whatever
Yeah.
that light may be, whatever that connection may be. And I know spirituality's thrown around a lot, like the word spirituality gets attached to a lot of things, but I think when I say that, I'm talking about just being connected to nature, being connected to the moment, being in the present, and that's all it is for me. Like, and nature is my connection, like.
Well, and you're talking about, spiritual, like light is such a, like, all you have to do for me is, when I see, like, if I go into, say, I don't know, you can go down here and you see someone wrapped up in the in addiction or alcoholism, and they're on the streets, and you can see there's like a dullness in the eyes, like the light is lost.
I love that.
And when you see someone after a little bit of a journey on this change, the light, when you talk about the light, there's like a sparkle that starts coming into the eyes, a kind of whoa, okay, this is life. You know what I mean? And I've seen so many people, and like, I've
But
seen,
it's mad you said about light, because an analogy for light, like, light gives life.
yeah,
Like, anything that, like, light shines on, any vegetables, grass, trees, any life force, any being needs light to survive. Without light, we wouldn't be here.
yeah,
And it's that thing to be grateful for, such a simple thing, that light is so vital. And it's like that when we find light in our lives, it's a game changer.
yeah, and
It makes everything grow. Light is the growth.
one for me, like, that's one of the one thing I love seeing, right? If there's anything that really gives me a sense of spiritual good feeling, is when I sit and I see someone start this journey. Like, I've seen so many people start the journey, and they come into a room, a 12-step program, and their life's just a complete and utter hole of darkness, like mine. And it's harder for me to witness my own life on the outside, but when I see someone else, the light starts, and they might be separated from their children, and next thing, or they might have something going on that's, their family or their mothers. In my case, I was kind of struggling with my relationship with my family, and then to see the joy that comes back in, that light we talked about, when you see a father holding his daughter's hand again, or a mother being able to embrace their son, or go to bed at night knowing that their son's not going to be in a police station, or that light that shines through not only their lives, as that the light comes back into their lives, but all the people around them, and all of a sudden there's like a peace restored in the lives of people that have started that journey. And I love seeing that. Like, if there was anything I love seeing in life, it's that. When I see someone they come into a 12-step program, they put in the work, and then I see the rewards in either their children's lives, their parents, whatever it is. I just love seeing it. It just gives me this feeling of how powerful is that,
I love
how
that.
blessing is that.
It's
And
like it's like the ripple effect of active, say, addiction.
Yeah.
It tears down relationships around us. It impacts us, our jobs, our relationships. Our health, our mental health in a negative way. It's like a corroding thread. But then when we get sober, it goes the opposite way, where it's a positive ripple effect. That affect our relationships get better, our jobs get better, our mental health and our physical health get better, and it goes the opposite way. And like that, when you'll see people that look like the fear and the anxiety and just how lost they are in their eyes when they come in, and they have all these problems going on that will never pass. And then over weeks you slowly see the smile side come back, and you realise that these problems that have been so overwhelming and so hard to process for people slowly start to get better, and they realise that they're not that important.
And they're not alone. And just on that, I want to say something to anyone who's either watching this or listening to this on Spotify. If you are in a place of darkness, or you are on your own and you're suffering, or you're hurting, or you feel that searing pain and you feel like you're the only one out there, all I can say to you guys is just reach out. Reach out, look for help. If it's drug or alcohol addiction, look for a 12-step program. If it's whatever you're going through, reach out to someone. Don't be alone. Don't suffer alone. The reality is, people do care about each other. People do want to help you. And you on your own, on my own, I know I stand a very high chance of, well, I don't stand, I know will lose the battle. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, reach out to someone. Really, like, it changed my life, to say the words, I need help.
I love that, man.
Yeah, big time.
Appreciate that, right, man? That's been a powerful conversation.
Yeah.
And everything happens for a reason. I think that chat was meant to happen. What I
Yeah.
mean? That was a powerful chat.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, brother.
Nice one, brother.
Lovely stuff.
Nice